Yesterday, Brad Holmes showed once again a reason why he's considered one of the best GMs in the NFL. Because as it was plainly seen, he is not finished yet. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. It doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike. And as always, we're diving on in. So, folks, I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to, get too high into the platitudes here. Yesterday, Brad Holmes made 2 moves, which, at face value, they're not big. They're not shiny. They're not sexy. Nothing about these moves is going to be a wow factor. What am I talking about? Yesterday, Brad Holmes brought back, re-signed, cornerback Khalil Dorsey, and it was also reported by Mike Garofalo that the Lions were going to be signing former San Francisco 49ers and Baltimore Ravens and Indianapolis Colts cornerback Rock Ya-Sin. Now, these 2 moves, at face value, as I said, they're not big moves, but they are critical moves. Again, I just literally talked about this late yesterday. When you take a look at what Brad Holmes has been doing, Brad Holmes is building the defense from the bottom up, in a sense, right now, because what he is doing is he is continuing to add more depth. He's continuing to add more rotation. All he's doing right now is he is trying to make sure that the base levels of the defense, primarily, because that's where most of the signings have been going on, they're covered. Hey, we've got depth. Hey, we've got rotational pieces. We've got everything that we need in case something goes wrong. We have somebody who can come on in and can fill in if we need them to. That's exactly what these 2 signings and also other signings that have happened lately, such as Pat O'Connor, such as Al-Quadin Muhammad, all of these signings are the exact same thing. It's Brad Holmes being smart. It's Brad Holmes ensuring that this roster has proper depth to it. Again, when you take a look at the 2 signings, we don't know what the deals are just yet as far as the monetary value, but I'd be willing to bet you this. They're not going to be a whole hell of a lot of money. They're probably going to be value signings. They're probably going to be incentive-based bonuses, and they're probably going to be low on terms of actual overall cap hit. Because if we want to be honest with ourselves, most of the moves that Brad Holmes has made this offseason, that's exactly what they've been. Realistically, the 2 biggest moves that Brad Holmes has made this offseason is when he signed DJ Reed and when he brought back Derek Barnes. Other than that, most of the deals that he's been making have been, again, 1-year value-based signings that are usually incentive-based. That's exactly what it's been. Now, again, I know this for a fact. This is not, again, the type of news that most Lions fans want to hear. They're not interested in hearing about, we got more depth. We got more rotation. They don't give a turkey. Most Lions fans are like, when are we going to get somebody of name value? When are we going to get that big name player that lets us know that Brad Holmes is actually going to do what he said he did? What he said he was going to do, pardon me. I got one thing to say to all that. What makes you think Brad Holmes hasn't been doing that? Brad Holmes said that he recognized that the edge rushing group needed to be upgraded. There's still the draft. there's still free agency second round that's coming up after the draft. Brad Holmes is doing exactly what he said he was going to do. Because Brad Holmes also stated, and Dan Campbell has stated this in earlier times, that the one thing that they wanted to make sure was not neglected was that the team had adequate depth. And again, you have to understand it from the perspective of what happened last year. When you lose 16 different starters on IR, I'm going to just tell you this right now. As much as I would love it if we could go out and get all those big-time players and just go on a shopping spree like the Bears or the Patriots or some nonsense like that, injuries are a funny mistress. They are indiscriminate, they do not care who it is, and they will happen. Well, here's the thing. As we found out last year, we lost a lot of starters. But here's the funny part, is that despite losing a lot of those starters, we still were able to field, for the most part, an adequate defense. Was it great? No, it wasn't. But despite the fact that we had a lot of backups and rotational pieces making starts for us, I will remind everybody once again, this defense did finish in the top 10 for points given up. We were ranked 7th, so we still did pretty good. Were there areas that we could certainly improve upon? Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that anywhere. But let's understand something here. Brad Holmes did learn that last year, because the Lions didn't have as much depth as what they obviously needed due to that literal injury bug, it really set them back. It really was something that put them in a very tight bind. So, by adding more depth and rotation, number one, as I've said before, I'll say again here, it helps stave off the injury problems if you should happen to have injuries again. Again, knock on wood. But there's also something else that it does. By bringing in more depth, by bringing in more rotation, what happens is you also bring out more competition. Again, if there's one thing we know about Brad Holmes, and especially Dan Campbell, is that they love competition. They want to see guys compete. They want to make sure that guys, when they get their jobs, they have earned their jobs, that they have shown them that they deserve their jobs. Well, let's think about it. The Lions brought in 2 cornerbacks yesterday. Brought one back and brought in a new one. Well, as we already know, the Lions already have, at the very minimum, 3 starters at the cornerback position. They have DJ Reed, they have Terrion Arnold, and they have Amik Robertson. That's a pretty good trio right there. Well, here's the thing. After that, it's like, okay, well, what do you really have as far as proven commodities? And I'm not saying like they haven't proven themselves on the field at times past, but how have they proven themselves to the Detroit Lions? Khalil Dorsey has come in for us on occasion, and he's done, I wouldn't say grand, but he's done okay in spots. He's not a guy that I would want long-term as a starter, but in a pinch, okay, sure, whatever. But then you also have, freaking Rakestraw. Rakestraw is a guy that has a lot of potential. He has a lot of talent. But as we know last year, much like a lot of other guys, we didn't get to see much of him because he was dealing with injury. So obviously, this move of bringing in Rock Ya-Sin tells me that what the Lions are wanting to do is they're wanting to have a competition in the spring, in the summer, in training camp between Rock Ya-Sin and Rakestraw. Why? I don't think it's because they're trying to replace Rakestraw. I believe what they're trying to do is like they've done with everybody else. Hey, we're going to bring in somebody to push you. We're going to bring in somebody to help progress you along, to get your development further along. That's what the Lions are trying to do. Because let's understand something here. The Lions wouldn't have drafted Rakestraw in the second round if they didn't believe that he could develop into something good for them. But obviously, he lost a lot of time last year rehabbing from injury. So the best thing to do to help, get him back on track is to make sure he's got somebody behind him that's pushing him for reps, that's pushing him to get the best out of him. So what I believe is going to happen is that when Rock Ya-Sin comes in, he's going to get competing reps probably at the second and third string level, and that's going to push Rakestraw because Rakestraw is going to be competing at that level. Now, that's one thing to look at it with this whole new signing with Rock Ya-Sin. But the other thing about the signing that I really like is that he's not just a cornerback solely. One thing we also know about Rock Ya-Sin is that this guy has proven over the years that he can be a pretty damn good special teams player. And the one thing we also know about the Lions is they want guys that can wear multiple hats. Hey, can you play your primary position? Okay, check that box off. But at the same time, can you fill in other places? Can you potentially go on special teams? Can you potentially do something else as well? Because they want guys that can fill into multiple roles if need be, unless they are really good at what they do. That's exactly what this move also tells me. They're bringing in this guy to challenge Rakestraw, to get him further along, to help him get back to where he should be. But at the same time, they're also looking for other ways to improve and get more players that can fit into multiple roles. And again, that also helps out in terms of depth and rotation because it's like, okay, rather than having to have, say, 3 or 4 guys to fill in for one particular spot, I now have a guy that can cover down on 2 or 3 different spots. So then that way I don't have to allocate as much resources to making sure I have adequate backups beyond a starter. Now I have a guy where I can say, hey, he's not only a backup here, but he's also a backup over here. So now I've got both of my bases covered. It's a smart move. And again, it's not going to cost the Lions a whole hell of a lot of money. So for me, what Brad Holmes did is he bolstered the defense by making sure to bring back Khalil Dorsey and signing Rock Ya-Sin to not only add more depth there, but to also add rotational pieces to also help progress and push and develop Rakestraw. Because again, the Lions do think Rakestraw can do something, and the best way to get him to where they want him to be is to have him compete. But at the same time, by bringing guys back like Khalil Dorsey and also bringing in Rock Ya-Sin, that also means now that, hey, you've now got guys that can also fill in on special teams, whether it's as a gunner, maybe even as a return man in a pinch, whatever the case might be. This is Brad Holmes saying, okay, I'm going to try and find the best guys for the best value so that way I can get the best use out of them from multiple positions. And if I also get the added bonus of having them compete with somebody to push them along, then that's what I call a win-win situation. You're pretty much getting everything you're wanting out of the guy. Now, I will say this. Is there a chance that Rock Ya-Sin could be, a training camp cut when we get to there? Maybe. I can't say for certain. That's way too far ahead. But I do know this, that the Lions are definitely going to be looking at every possible avenue, every possible angle to try and ensure that the guys that they have on their 53-man roster and the obvious 46-man play day roster is the best they possibly can field. Which, let's understand something here. To get on this roster, to be able to say that you can play for the Detroit Lions, that's not a joke or a ha-ha thing anymore. That's some serious business because the Lions are one of the best teams in the NFL. So if you're going to be playing for the Lions, you have to bring your A game. You have to be able to play with the big boys. And that's exactly what I think the Lions are doing here. They want to make sure that everybody competes for their job. They want to make sure everybody's putting out 100% on the field so that way they get the best possible product. So, anyway, I just wanted to talk about this. I know it came out late yesterday, so I decided I was going to lead off with it today, and obviously, that's what my story is for right now. But I will say this, I've also got another episode coming out later today, provided, of course, something doesn't happen to where I have to talk about that as well. But in the meantime, I just wanted to talk about this, so I'm going to end this episode and say thank you all for watching yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please, make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you guys never miss any more content I push out. Also want to encourage y'all, please, to make sure you share this content with your Lions friends and family members. Share it here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share it anywhere and everywhere you possibly can. The more we can do that, the channel can grow and further spread. And with that being said, to everybody, I hope you all enjoyed the content. Again, I also hope you got something out of it to think on, chew on, mull over. I truly want that to be the case with any episode I push out, and I truly want that to be the case for everybody, whether it's the first time you're watching me, you guys have been watching me forever and a day. Hope you all have something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. And with that being said, God bless, my friends, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.